Working on this 2016 F350 with 6.7. They had changed the fuel filters out on it, and now they couldn't get it to start, so they called me out to work on it. Some of the issues I've seen is this little valve right here does not shut off all the way, does not close up the gaps. So whenever you go to change your filter and you're trying to get it to start after you've turned the key on several times to get it to bleed all the air out, you'll see fuel pouring out from the bottom. And the fuel is pouring out from the bottom because this little sill on the end is not closing up in there. So if you look down in there where it's at in the bottom, right down there where you can see the light at the end of my finger, you'll see the light after you put this valve in, and that means it's not closing off. So then you're never going to get fuel up in there. Now most people, what they do is they think that it's leaking and they need to crank it down more, so they crank it down harder and harder, and then they bust the cap, and that's what happens. These things pretty much just go up there. Once it stops on its mounting point, then it stops. If you're leaking out the bottom, it's probably because this is not sealing correctly, so you need to go back through and make sure that it's sealing. Now, if you're wondering where the fuel filter is, this is a 4-door right here. If you go right underneath the driver's door handle and go underneath, then you'll see the fuel filter housing sitting right there. It's right, this is 4-wheel drive, so it's right next to the transfer case. It's really easy to take off. You just take the electrical plug off on it, and then you start twisting the cap off using a 32mm socket, if I can get it to focus there. And once you get all of your seals changed on your valve, go ahead and stick it in there. You'll have to push it in to get that first O-ring over, and then screw it in all the way. And then you'll want to look down in the hole and towards the valve, put the valve towards the light, and down in there, on there, you shouldn't see any light. If you see any light, you can put your finger underneath the valve a little bit, the drain, and see if you see any light coming out. And now that I did that, I don't see any light, and we'll go ahead and put the filter back in here and go ahead and screw it back up into place. Okay, another thing I wanted to point out is that the sensor that's going to be on the filter housing is going to be setting kind of like that right there. And what you need to do is you need to look at the new housing, and that'll basically tell you how the sensor comes out. A lot of people break the sensor off right here, and you can see right here where the tabs are broken on it, and they break the tabs off in order to get that off, and the sensor comes apart. But the sensor unscrews and then screws into the new housing. So if you don't know what you're doing, or if you get someone that's working on your vehicle that don't know what they're doing, and then you end up seeing these tabs broke right there, it's because they didn't know that the sensor screwed out, that they put a screwdriver up in there because they thought that the sensor came off like it was inserted into that space, but it's actually a screw in piece. So once you get that ready, then crawl underneath here, take that green O-ring off and replace it with the new one that come with your filter. You basically just pull it off and then you roll the new O-ring up on there. Now this is normally not too hard to get a little screwdriver underneath there and get it pulled off. It might be a different color, yours might be black. This one is probably the new one that they put on whenever they attempted to change it but didn't know that the valve was staying open. I'm going to go ahead and put this one on that came with the new housing that I purchased because they over torqued this on there and could have injured the O-ring. So once you get the old one off, just set the new one on there and roll it up to threads. Once you got it rolled all the way up and in the groove, now you're ready to put the filter housing back on. So now you just set the new filter up there, start spinning it on. It doesn't really matter where you start at. Once you do it by hand all the way, then you'll put your socket on there. Just try to remember what location it was that it started at, which basically these will be pointed off to the front area. Let me grab my socket. I did it all by hand right now, And then now I'm going with a ratchet, and you'll be able to tell whenever it stops. Okay, right there, solid stop. That's it, no more. Don't tighten it up anymore, don't torque it down. Once you feel that solid stop, it's it, that's it. And go ahead and put your sensor back on there, and we should be good to go on that part. Now underneath the hood, you'll have this filter that's sitting right here by the transmission dipstick. It's really easy to replace. Now this one you can pretty much do with your hand. You come up here, get these little blue tabs, pull back towards the outside of it, and then push down on the tabs, and that little blue tab will come out, and then you can wiggle the line off. And then on this other one, you'll squeeze it and pull the tab off. Once you get that squeezed on there, you'll be able to take it off. Then just go counterclockwise and lift that housing right out. Once it probably has fuel in there, so keep this pointed up so it don't dump all the diesel out. Then take the new filter, go down in the hole, basically in the groove there. Once you get it in the groove, just turn it clockwise until it stops, and that's installed. Then take your little cap off, put the fuel line in there, do the same for the opposite side. Now once you push that line up in there, you're going to need to push the blue clip back up, make sure it's locked into place, and you just change your front side fuel filter. So once you get both filters changed, you should come up to the key, turn the key on, and you should be able to hear the line and hear the fuel filling up into the filter. Now you want to do this process, turn the key on until it stops. Whenever you stop hearing the whine, turn the key off, turn it back on. Do that about 5 or 6 times. Now you should see that there's no fuel dripping out of here, and since there's no fuel dripping out, then you know that the valve has been completely closed off. Now you should start hearing the fuel come in there. You'll hear a different pitch from the fuel pump and start hearing fuel. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Can you hear the different sound right there? Now there's no high pitched sound. It went to low pitched because you can hear the fuel going through there. Now it might take more than 6 or 7 or the 5 or 6 times if you turn the key to get it up in there, but you're gonna need to turn the key until that happens. Now if you still have fuel coming out right here, then you might want to twist this valve a little more. Now you don't want to break it, but usually they go pretty flush. You know, you want to screw it down in there and make sure that if you replace the seals and everything in there, then twist it till it becomes pretty firm. You might have to get a pair of pliers on there and twist it a little bit. Just be careful, don't snap it off. And I'm not sure if you can hear it, but up here you can hear where the fuel is going through the system and filling up. It's got to fill up this canister right here. It might not just take 4 or 5 times. You might have to do it a dozen times before you get all the air purged out, but you can definitely hear it running through there. You do want to make sure that you don't have any leaks or anything in your fittings, to make sure that everything's all tight, that there's no fuel dripping out from around here either. I'm going to go ahead and check it again underneath here. I can hear the fuel churning in there. I've did this about a dozen times so far, and now I'm about satisfied with you know, all the air getting out of the system. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to start it. So one last turn on the key, and let's try to start it. All right, there you go. Start it up now. Now we want to go check to make sure there's no leaks. check underneath to make sure that you don't have any leaks. But that's basically how you change out your filters on your 6.7 diesel. Other than that, thanks for watching my video today. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for me. Like it, share it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hopefully my video helped you out today. Keep in mind that every vehicle may be different, so your process might be slightly different. You might have to do a couple of other steps than what I had to do. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching again, everyone.